and I want to be able to give you guys as much value as I possibly can. So yeah, let's please open the discussion. So go ahead, Cole.
So, what discuss means for me, I feel like it's kind of going through a phase of drastic change. I mean, my definition of success for so long has been, money and travel and possessions and all this stuff. Now I find myself focusing more on these type of things, like, how I can use this time to benefit my future, to benefit my family, to be of more value to society, so that when I get out, my past doesn't have to define who I am forever. I think about that all the time, like you said. So I guess, you asked me what it means. It's more of what I can do. I want to make my family proud. I don't want to be defined by this forever. So my idea of success today, presently, might be different tomorrow, but as it stands right now, I just really want my past not to define my future. And I think that's the best definition I have for success at the moment.
So I'm going to ask, does anybody in the group have a different definition of success? Do you know? Is there anybody that would? So what Cole? I heard Cole said. Cole, could everybody hear you? Your name's Cole, right?
Yeah.
Could everybody hear what you said?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a different definition of what success is? What I heard him say is he wants the world to see him differently. Does anybody have a different definition?
Living life. Yeah. Living life.
Could you repeat, Cole, what they said?
Said living life the way he wants to live life.
Okay. Did anybody think that that's like a useless exercise? And I'd encourage you guys just to be open and honest. If it's a useless exercise, I want to discuss it, because there's a reason for this question. Okay. Does anybody think like this is just bullshit, right? It's just useless, waste of time. Anybody?
No.
All right. So I'm glad that you did that, and we're going to have some things to say about that as the course proceeds today. So glad that you said what you said. Continue on with the rest of your responses.
So what I've done in the last week to make a commitment to success self-evident, thinking about that in the last week, studying my interests, working on the qualities of myself I wish to improve, my patience, my self-control, my relationship with my family, and how I deal with all the challenges that are in here and out there, and just trying to improve myself. Use the time to think about, again, just how I can affect my future, how I can use the time for self-improvement, and just doing that. What opportunities do you expect to open as a result of this pathway, of the pathway of your engineering? I guess I hope to gain a better understanding of myself and the path that I'm on. I want to be able to gain more opportunity as a result of that. I expect to open doors. It's what I'm really trying to do is gain opportunity. So in what ways will your market value your efforts? I put here that I believe if I work hard enough, the results of the work will be evident and difficult to overlook. And I'm hoping, again, to open doors as a result of that. So how does your process relate to science and repeatability? I put, all I understand about the process tells me that I'm on the right track, and all I can really do is expand and intensify my efforts to ensure that I get the results that I'm desiring.
Thanks, Cole.
Yeah.
So does anybody else want to share something because I want to respond to all of those and talk about what this course is supposed to do. This intake exam, incidentally, as I said, it's not, there's no right or wrong answer, right? This is supposed to prompt us to think differently. And I want to kind of go through it in a manner that I learned when I'm going to get positioned to sell myself. because we all have to sell ourselves. And this process that I'm giving to you is a process that I think applies to you regardless of where you are in your journey. Meaning, am I getting out of jail next month? Am I facing a sentencing hearing in the next 6 months or 9 months? Am I home and getting my first job? Am I advancing my career? All of it. If you learn how to use a tool like this, that's what engineering means. So if I say, what does success mean for you? I want to be as specific as I can possibly be. And that means at a different area. For example, if I'm getting sentenced, success might mean for me, I can't really influence what the judge is going to do. But success might mean for me that I did everything within my power to influence that process of what was going to happen. I didn't just wait for my defense attorney to save me. I took action. If it means I'm getting out of jail in a month and I'm thinking about, okay, my success for me is going to be to have a job within 3 weeks or 2 weeks. What am I going to do that? So what is success? I want it to be as specific as you possibly can be. And Cole, as I recall, success for you is that you wanted your family to see you differently. Isn't that right?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. So when I'm asking you to define success, I'm gonna task you or challenge each of you. Get more specific. Don't say I want them to see me differently. What do you want them to see you as? Define it to the extent that you're possible and do it in every area. And that relates to the last question. How does your process relate to science and repeatability? You see, here's the secret that I learned, not only in being successful in jail and prison, but also building businesses outside and getting people to invest with me, even though I was in prison for 26 years, or building a market where I can go into a business with nothing and turn it into where I have an equity stake and I'm a partner in a business. I'm going to tell you, it all starts with that first question. What does success mean for you? If you don't know how to answer that question, you don't really know how to play the game. And if you don't know how to play the game, then it's nobody's fault but yours unless you want to learn that game. And I am here to try and show you, hey, these are some questions that I learned from Socrates that really changed everything in my life, and I am absolutely confident they can change it in your life too. So when you define success, I'm going to ask you to also look at that last question and say, how does your process relate to science and repeatability? And I ask that question because I know it's kind of hard to answer. It's even hard to understand. What does that mean? Science and repeatability. I don't even know what that means. When I didn't know, I wouldn't have known what that meant when I was in jail. So I'm going to tell you what it means if I'm in jail, if I'm in prison, if I'm going to sentencing, if I'm going to get out, if I'm building a business, if I'm pursuing a job. You see, anybody you're trying to influence, you got to start thinking about it from their perspective. And that process is going to make all the difference in the world, right? If you go to get a hamburger at McDonald's in Charlotte, and you get a hamburger at McDonald's in Los Angeles, it's going to be about the same. And the reason it's going to be about the same is because that business became very good at creating a process. It's documented. It is very clear what they want to deliver. Is McDonald's, show of hands, how many will say that a McDonald's hamburger is the best hamburger in the world? Show of hands. Probably not too much different from the hamburgers you guys get at the Charlotte jail. Okay? But you know what it is? They're the best at marketing hamburgers because they sell $30 billion worth of hamburgers a year. And the reason that they're successful is because they have a process and they have documented that process. So everybody who goes to McDonald's knows exactly what success looks like. And whether that's when they order, how long it's frozen, how long they put it on the grill, when they turn it over, it's a complete machine. And to the extent that you can bring that level of repeatability and process to your life, you are going to advance the prospects for success as you define success. Not as I define it, not as your case manager defines it, not as your mom and dad define it, or even your wife defines it, but as you define it. So I think of this whole process as being like a three-legged stool where, let me say, I'm going to use a prop here, okay? So this is a thing I use to hold my phone when I'm working so that I could always see what's going on. But you notice it has three legs, right? So if I balance it on these three legs, it holds pretty well. But if I lose one of the legs, there's no way it stands up, right? No way. So success and repeatability is like this process where you got to have three legs. And one of the legs has to be, first of all, you have to define it. And you've got to be able to define it anywhere and to anybody. And you've got to do it with confidence. And you got to be able to be able to defend it. And the only way you can do that is if you also have a process that goes with it. Okay? That's what makes it scientific. Because like McDonald's knows that they're going to get the same hamburger in Los Angeles as in Charlotte, and it's not the best hamburger in the world, but it's certainly the best sold hamburger in the world. That's, if you really distill it down, how did they do it? It's because they invested a lot of time to define success, and success for them was not making a gourmet, the best hamburger in the world. It was to be the most profitable hamburger in the world. So what's success for you? Is it to get your first job? Is it to get the lowest sentence possible? Is it to get out of jail at the earliest possible time? Is it to, be a good father? Is it to be a good husband? Well, you define it, but then put some parameters on it with what that's going to mean. And that leads you to the second leg. And the second leg is you've got to create tools and tactics and a process that if you execute on these things, you're going to be closer to success. It's a series of incremental steps. The things that I do today, which is do business all over the country, is only possible because I learned this process when I was still in jail. Well, I was in prison by the time I kind of learned this. But I couldn't do this when I started. It's a series of little steps. Getting a GED may be one step. Learning math may be another step. Getting into college may or may not be another step. But it's a series of saying, okay, what tools do I have around me and how can I use them to advance the process? And I got to think about that. Because if I don't think about that, I'm going to get sidetracked. I'm going to get the shiny object syndrome, where I say I'm doing something today, but then this little shiny object comes up and it catches my attention and I lose track. That's why, I went to jail. I had an opportunity. My father was a contractor and I should have worked for him, but I got a shiny object. I saw Scarface and I thought that would be a super cool way to live. And I started chasing this path because I didn't have a process. I want you to have a process, and I want you to figure it out for yourself. So when you get this quiz again, don't take 10 minutes on it. Take 10 days on it. Figure it out. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for case manager. Don't do it for a certificate. Do it because there's a three-legged stool that you are trying to build. And that first leg of that build is to clearly define success. And we're going to do that in the second hour of this course. The second leg is develop the tools and tactics that you need. And the third leg is you've got to make it measurable. You've got to make sure that you can measure how much progress am I making every day. Am I really on the game? This is something that you can use everywhere. And I'm going to give you, and I know that you guys got a break in 5 minutes, and I'm going to respect that. But I'm going to tell you that this is something that you can use in a lot of different ways. I'm going to give you 2 examples during these last 5 minutes. I want you to think about it when you take your break. Let's say that I'm going to get sentenced, and I'm using this process to think about how I'm going to communicate to a judge when I know that I have a prosecutor who's only going to be showing the bad things in my life. If I'm starting to think about the judge, I'm going to tell the judge a couple of things that I know the judge does not expect to hear. That's going to start with, I understand the pain that my crime has caused, that there are victims. And I deeply am going to show what I've learned from this. And I am going to show what this process of going through my time in the Mecklenburg County Jail has caused me to really introspect and think. And this is what I'm going to do to make things right. And if you can build that story, you are advancing the possibility of getting leniency at sentencing, which is important to anybody in there. If I'm on the other side of the journey and I'm getting out in a month, well, I know what challenges I got to face in a month and a half. No more is my meal going to be brought into the housing unit 3 times a day. No more am I going to have clothes to wear, even if it's a jumpsuit or an orange prison outfit, right? I got to start living in the world as it exists, where 40 million people are currently filing unemployment. That's the reality. So if 40 million people are unemployment going into the job market, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself so that you can get a job? It's easy to say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to crush it. What's hard to do is to figure out how. Because if you can answer this question to an employer, you're going to differentiate yourself. If you can define success and tell the person who's asking you the question how you defined it, what your documented strategy was to go after it, if you could tell him how you developed tools and tactics to succeed, and if you can tell him, and this is the way that I measured my prospect along the way, guess what? You have just put yourself in a different category from many of those other millions of people. And that's how you start getting your foot in the door. And that's how you start climbing the ladder. And that's why that's what I used to begin acquiring assets during the worst recession of our lifetime, when I was still in a halfway house. So I know that you can do it, but I know there's a process of getting through it. And that's what this intake kind of exam was, to get you to think about where are you right now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about where I hope you will be on the other side of this course. Because I want to teach you the strategies that I used. And I'm going to show you kind of an accountability metric and how to use it in your own life. Whether it's about being a better father, a better husband, a better son, a better citizen, whether it's about being a better person, whether it's about making more money, whether it's about advancing your career, or whether it's about getting ready for sentencing and getting ready for court, or whether it's about how am I going to live in prison and what am I going to do while I am in prison. Wherever you are in your journey, wherever you are, I'm absolutely convinced that these kinds of questions can help you engineer a path that is both scientific and repeatable. You can use it to lose weight. You can use it to build your business. You can use it in every area of your life. Now, I know it's now 10 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of your break. So I'm gonna, just be quiet for a little while and let you guys do what you got to do. How long is this break? Is it 10 minutes or 15 minutes? 15 minutes. So I'll just hang out here with you guys until 10:10.